Welcome to the 903 podcast. This week, I sat down with Amanda Veasy, founder of One Love Longview. We talked about her personal history and how it led to her drive to form human connection and practice kindness, the services she has provided for the underserved population of Longview, and how that can be unnecessarily complicated in a divided community. Here's what's happening in the 903. Welcome back to the 903 podcast. I'm Andrew Darrington, your host. Today we're coming to you from the Young Building here in Tyler, Texas. So thankful to have their support and all of our sponsors' support and be able to do this podcast here in this nice building. Today we've got Amanda Veasy. Is that
That's right.
Veasy? Uh-huh. And Amanda is the executive director and founder of One Love Longview. Kind of wedged you in here due to some recent events that we'll talk about here in just a minute.
Sure.
But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you coming. By the way, we got a sponsor. This is Texas State of Mind Coffee.
Oh.
They're one of our sponsors. They're actually the coffee of Texas, and their coffee is steamed instead of cooked by gas. So pretty cool sponsor to have, and they make it here in Tyler.
That is amazing. Coffee's my favorite. I came in with a coffee, right?
Yeah,
so Thank you.
So there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So nonprofit work. Talk to me a little bit about like some of the things that happened maybe early in life that kind of steered you into that direction.
Wow. So early life. I grew up here in East Texas in Longview, born and raised here. I have a good family. My dad was a functioning drug addict and alcoholic. Mm-hmm. He held down a full-time job and did it well. And he also was a person who used drugs very severely. He got into a severe car accident when I was 5, and it left him. They didn't think he would make it for months. Every day we thought he would die. Mm-hmm. And eventually he came out of it, and he was able to get into a brain rehabilitation center in Houston, Texas, one of the best in the nation. Mm-hmm. And we managed to get him developed back up to about an 8-year-old.
Wow.
And so for the remainder of his life until he passed away when I was 14, I outgrew him. And so we learned how to read at the same time, and we learned how to tie our shoes at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so that made for a pretty interesting childhood, and that kind of thing shapes everything about you.
Sure.
And so I grew up and I was an interesting teenager. Mm-hmm. I became a teenage mom.
Yeah. And
it took me a long time to really, really come to grasp with the fact, years, I'm talking like in the last few years, and a lot of therapy with being able to say that I experienced homelessness as a teenager. And I became a young teenage mom, moved out on my own, and was evicted. And before I knew it, we were couch surfing and going where we could. And that was interesting. And so then I went on from that into an abusive situation, and I stayed for years, and we were in severe poverty, and it changed everything about me. So,
what did it change?
Man, I think we grew up one way, and we think that life is one way. And then maybe I went from, I had a great mom. Like I had a really, really great mom, and she worked really hard, has a great drive. Mm-hmm. She provided for me. And so I think in a lot of ways, I didn't understand what the other side of life could look like in a struggle. And so going into that and trying to do things on my own, everything that I ever thought I knew right, I think just like life just slapped me upside the head, and it just shook me. Mm-hmm. And so I think I man, I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I mean, it strikes me that you were it sounded like you were a very independent kid.
Yeah.
And we had to grow up pretty quick.
Yeah.
You probably had to take care of your dad some, babysitting him or, keeping an eye on him or what have you. Your mom's doing the work of both parents. And then you have a child as a teenager. Maybe you felt motivated to get out of the house because of that decision or the outcome of the decision. And then you move into an abusive relationship and you settle, which is kind of hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling like deflated and you're depressed, probably, and feeling like, well, in some ways it sounds like you felt like that was a step up, where it probably wasn't. Like, had you stayed in that homelessness situation and worked through that process instead of choosing the abuse, which I'm sure you didn't feel like it was going to be that way when you chose it, but it ended up being that way, and then you settled for it for longer than you should have.
Long time, yeah. That's. I mean, I think that's pretty spot on. I moved out first and ended up, getting pregnant later on.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think my mom and I were a lot different, and I experienced some things, childhood sexual abuse that the rest of my family wasn't aware of, and so it becomes very interesting. I actually just had this conversation with a family member the other day who was saying, "Did you share something on Facebook again about how you were homeless?" Because
I saw that.
Like when that happens, they come to us and say, like, "Why did you just let her be homeless?" And I was like, "Well, it had nothing to do with you. I was doing the best that I could with the tools in my toolbox, and that didn't mean that you were a bad family member or not a supportive family member. It meant that in my mind, with the tools that I had in my toolbox, then I was making the safest decision that I could for me at that moment." And so I think that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. What was the point where you were like, the abuses were there? Like, you had a child, maybe were they involved, or was it more about like, hey, we can't do this because the child is seeing it or hearing it or what have you?
Man, we're going deep.
Well, I mean,
listen.
We don't have to get too detailed.
No, it's fine.
But I mean, it speaks to your motivation and your passion for what you do now.
I struggled a lot in childhood. I was very different, and I had a very different life at home, and I didn't fit in real well. And when I left home, I think things were so traumatic just because of how life, just the cards that I was dealt. I just think I thought I would never go back. I could never go back to how things were. And I did by whatever means necessary. And so I jumped from abuser to abuser. And that was what my late teenage years into my 20s looked like. And I ended up getting married. And it was, I went through physical abuse in relationships, and then ended up going through some severe psychological and spiritual abuse. Yeah. And it's gradual. You don't recognize it's happening. I can remember several years ago when I got out of that marriage, I was in a bookstore and I picked up a book. It's called How to Overcome 5 Types of Abuse, I think is the name of the book. I still have it. I lend it out all the time when I see women who are experiencing it. Yes. Yeah. And so I picked up this book by some chance in the bookstore and opened it up, and I had no idea I was being abused until I read the book. Like, I picked it up, opened it up.
Because you're being groomed.
Oh, yeah.
At that point.
Well, yeah.
That's pretty much what it is.
That's exactly what it was. Again, like, it's so gradual, you don't recognize what's happening, and it's one little thing on top of another.
Sure.
And by that time, I had a couple of kids, and
suggestive language. Yeah. And then staring and deflecting. and all the stuff, and then being overbearing is just a lot that happens, and it's day by day, and then eventually you don't fight it.
Well, and then you throw church in the mix.
Well, yeah, and that's it's a whole different ball of wax.
It is. So I was married to a pastor, and that was interesting. It was it adds for a different dynamic to psychological abuse, because then God is justifying it.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it okay in the human realm, but you internalize everything, and not all of the therapies or services offered through religious systems have been the healthiest over the years. Like, we're making progress, right?
Yeah.
But this has been years, right, since I went through this. And so we've definitely making progress. We're seeing big things happen, but
You're talking about some easement from the church's point of views, potentially on some topics that were taboo, especially out here in East Texas, where conservatism's pretty prominent.
Well, yeah, and when you're in a marriage, and especially when you're in ministry, and then you start having problems, and then it invites other people in ministry to get in on that. And,
right. Protagonists and antagonists.
Man, and then you add this dynamic to what different people believe about what a woman's role should be.
Sure.
And what a marriage should look like, and what you should or should not tolerate, and that God hates divorce.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then it just it snowballs. And then everything that you think about traditional forms of abuse, then again, you add that God dynamic on top of it. And not only is this happening to me, but God must be okay with this, or God must want me to stay.
Right, and you have years built up, and then you have things that you build together, and you pull, like you said, you have children, you have a house, you have assets, and all those things. To untangle that and be the initiator is not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
That is hard to do.
Yep.
So I picked up that book. I picked up the book and I started reading it, and it took a little bit, not too long. Once I started reading it, and it had practical ways to deal with someone with an abusive personality, and so I began to use some of those recommendations that the book had, and it was a form of therapy in itself. But it didn't go over well, and so things crumbled really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
because you're getting information from someone who is educated and trained and and understood. And now, a word from our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Red Construction and Development, LLC. If you are looking to build or remodel and need the highest quality, best reputation, and 3D rendering, look no further than Red Construction. Call Thomas and his team at 903-630-8660 today. This episode is sponsored by Hoot and Holler Beverage. When I think of Hoot and Holler, their selection and customer service first comes to mind. So skip the big box franchises and make the trip to Hoot and Holler in Gun Barrel City. Between barrel picks, mixers, seltzers, whatever you need for the weekend, they'll help you find it. Stop by today. Scott and team are ready. This episode is sponsored by the Humidor. If you are looking for cigars and want to enjoy a few hours in a great environment with a great staff, the Humidor should be your next stop. With their vast selection and new bar, you'll have a great time every time. This episode is sponsored by Vault Arms, the premier destination for all things firearm related. So if you're in the market for handguns, rifles, or supplies, stop by Vault Arms at 4740 South Broadway or their indoor range at 417 West Elm in Tyler. Now back to the 903 podcast. All right, so enough.
Yeah.
Let's transition into your nonprofit motivations. Talk to us a little bit about, I think we all get like why you were motivated, but what were some things that you thought about or that you did prior to creating the One Love Longview?
So when I got out of that marriage, I swore I'd never go back to church. But I still very much, those values are ingrained in me. That moral system, that code, if you will, is part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And very much was into a very traditional way of doing things. It's how I lived.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I knew. It's all I knew. So for me in that moment, in those days, it was tithing. And so I felt like I still needed to be making contributions. And so I would take my tithe, put it in cash in an envelope, and my family, we would go out, kids, like friends, family, go out, and instead of going to church on Sundays, I started going to encampments,
Mm-hmm.
and we would meet whatever needs were there, and that started
as much as you can make the dollar stretch.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So sometimes it was like loading 8 men in the back of a truck and taking them to a restaurant to break bread with them,
Yeah.
who were experiencing homelessness, and just talking. I say it all the time, and I reference it all the time, that those years. So that's been 10 years. That started in 2015, 16. So I say I mastered the art of listening in that 5-year period of my life. I sat and I closed my mouth,
Yeah.
and I listened to what I sat on tree stumps and encampments and across the table from people and broke bread with them and listened to their stories and what they had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think I skipped the part where I said that it started with me and a friend, and all of our kids were sitting around a table, and they were like rattling off their Christmas wish list, and it wasn't even Thanksgiving. And I was like, you people have no idea, like what, just like how lucky you are.
Yeah.
We're going to get 7 backpacks together. And it was just decided at the table, like, we're going to get 7 backpacks together. We're going to fill them with goodies. And each person, there were 7 of us at the table. Each person is responsible to go out and give this to a person experiencing homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And literally when we walked out and did that day, I haven't left since.
Yeah.
And so then you come to the build up with the taking the tithe out and put it in the envelope. Yeah. And that's how it all started. And then in 2020, I'd had some business friends over the years pull me to the side and say, like, you really got to start a nonprofit, because it started with us just going and meeting needs. But as you listen to people's stories, mm-hmm. the needs are greater than any one person can meet. And so I would go to my social media platform and say, like, hey, I have a friend out here on the street, and we have this need for ABC XYZ. And the community would start to pitch in. Just my little network of Facebook friends would pitch in. And so business friends pulled me to the side and was like, man, like, we would contribute to this.
Right.
We would support you if you would just start a nonprofit. It's a tax write-off. Like, do this. And I was like, no way. I hope I'm allowed to say hell on here. Like, no way in hell. I am never having a nonprofit.
Right.
Like, I don't want the red tape. I don't want the paperwork.
Sure.
And then in 2020, we're in the middle of this racial divide in the country and all of this political unrest and COVID, and things are terrible and people are desperate for community. Yeah. And we started it with a kindness movement is sort of how it started. We went out, essential workers who were less mm-hmm. valuable. So we saw like McDonald's, like honoring people who were doctors and nurses, like they could go and get free breakfast. But we were looking at custodial staff and people who were working in our grocery stores, servers who were not being honored that way. And so we like collected gift cards from the community. We put on masks and we went out, and I don't even know if it was allowed at this point. Like now I'm thinking back, I'm like, I don't even know if that was allowed, but we did it. And the city joined forces with us, and city councilmen and women showed up to serve with us, and people from all over the community. And you saw this huge variety of people and backgrounds mm-hmm. and political affiliations and religious views and colors and cultures who were all showing up just to do nice things. And I always say that, like, our roots, the world just calls us back to where it needs us. My folks who I'd been with on the streets for 5 years, they were still there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always a part of who I was. So just continuing in that, and then the snowballing in the community just transformed into, that's where my heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And so before I knew it, we had like a counseling center. And then the next day I looked up and we were like, we need a medical clinic.
Right.
And it just kept going. Am I off?
No.
No? Okay. All right.
Go, please.
So
yeah, you're filling in all the gaps.
Literally.
Making my job easy.
Every single day, it was something new. So we started off as this kindness movement. An insurance agent in Tyler, I got on the phone with a social worker one day who I'd called and reached out to. I'd never met her before. And I'm like, we're discussing this, and we're like, these are the needs of the community. Like, the community's in crisis right now. Everybody's been at home.
Right.
This is like COVID. People need counseling so bad, and no one can afford it. And she was like, we need a free counseling center. She's like, I got a couple of friends. Like, I'll find some counselors who will see some people for free if you can find a building. And it's funny. The story is now that she got off the phone with me and was like, that woman's crazy. Like, I'll never talk to her again. And I called her the next week and was like, I found us a building. And so,
right.
So then there was
a small building, right, downtown?
So, okay.
Was that the first one?
No. So actually, an insurance agent cleared out her utility closet.
Okay.
And we put a couple of chairs in there and like hung a few pictures on the wall. And we saw our first counseling client, a 100% free counseling center, no strings attached, no income requirements. There were no qualifying, like nothing, no qualifiers.
Yeah.
You just call and say, I need help. And we saw our first our first patient or client in the mental health clinic on October 5th of 2020.
Wow.
And then within a few months, we had upsized into to the first building and then the second. And we went from seeing about, I think we had about a client count of 8 to 12 and several
a day?
A week.
Oh, a week. Okay.
Like, and that's total, because you do therapy, like you're coming once a week, right? Or every other week. And so we were functioning, no one was paid.
Yeah.
We had strictly volunteers, just a few therapists from the community who said, I'll take one person.
Yeah.
And then we look up one day and we've moved 3 times and we're in this entire suite, and all of our clients, like we're scrambling because we're seeing all these people, and not only have they never had access to mental health care, they don't have access to medication.
Right.
They haven't seen a doctor since they were 5.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, like.
And so we're like, man, like we got to have a medical clinic. And so we just figured it out. And like this doctor came forward, and then a nurse practitioner came forward, and we opened a medical clinic, and it was completely free. And there were no one was disqualified. You call and you say, I need help. And it was so interesting because we had our PD, like our local police department, was showing up with people who were experiencing homelessness and asking for our help to find them placement, or for them to see one of our counselors, or for them to be seen in our medical clinic. And we had a millionaire whose child was experiencing issues with substance use, and they didn't want it on their insurance.
Right.
And they called. And so we were seeing people experiencing homelessness, and we were seeing the kids of millionaires.
Right.
And like, what a beautiful dynamic, and it exploded. It just exploded.
And so meanwhile, are you still maintaining a 9-to-5?
Oh, no, like, no.
You're fully engaged in the nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay. And it's being funded by the community?
Yes.
And
100%.
You're growing out of buildings.
Oh, yeah, left and right.
And then you get into a suite. Or is that the final stop, or is that?
No, that's not the final stop.
Okay. All right.
So so that was our third. We went from the utility closet to a small office space to a suite that had like 10 different offices in it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so we like just kept occupying the offices in that suite. So we moved in to that building expecting to have, that nonprofit that was housing us there, they were going to sew one office into our nonprofit, and we were going to pay rent on another one.
Gotcha.
So we were moving in there, we're taking 2 offices, and I like walked in a month later, and like there's a counselor standing on a ladder painting another office, and she's like, "We're out of room." I'm like, we can't just move in another office. We have to see if it's available.
Right.
But that's exactly how it happened. It was magical. And like before I know it, we have the entire suite occupied except for one office, and that's just because someone else was renting it already.
Yeah.
And we were bursting at the seams. We were providing mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, group therapy classes. We had hairdressers come in there and were giving free haircuts. We had people coming in and bringing fast food to our folks who like to feed them, because at that point, like we had just started to become a hub, and we had a shower and one washer and dryer in there. And so when PD had issues with, needing to get people
right
somewhere or needing to get them off their hands, we took them.
Yeah.
And so we developed and created a open door policy with any first responders, and they were allowed to just come and bring people to our doorstep and say, we need help with this person.
Right.
And we made that our priority.
Right.
And
instead of putting them in jail,
yes,
you were, taking over and saying, okay, you found them asleep
right,
on this private property, and instead of arresting them and adding a charge to their record, or and I think over time I've seen where there are PDs that do that,
yes,
where they're trying to just get them off the street, and they know them by name. I mean, a lot of them do, and so you're providing kind of an outlet for that, and you're bursting at the seams. So what's the next?
So I literally like walked in one day, and there were people everywhere and lined up at the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is it. Like, we can't stay here any longer. And as the world would have it, or the universe or God or like whatever you practice or believe, I like just said, like, we've got to move. We can't keep staying here. And a realtor called me and was like, hey, listen, I'm in this leadership class, and working on my degree for this, and I've got to come and shadow a nonprofit. Can I come there? And so she comes there the following week, and I'm talking to her, and she pulls up LoopNet and starts scrolling, and she finds this building, 1015 McCann Road. And we literally get in the car. She's not doing anything that she's supposed to be doing there. She's for her class. We get in the car, go over there, and as soon as I put my feet on the ground there, I said, this is the one. Walked in, and when I say it was made for us. Like, you don't just typically walk into a building that is already there, that feels like you could have designed it yourself for what you needed. And that's exactly what it was.
Okay.
So we moved from about 1,500 square feet in the suite that we were in to almost 10,000 square feet.
Wow. Holy smokes.
Yeah. So
we're about to get busier.
We did get busier.
Yeah.
So that's the story of how we landed at 1015 McCann.
Yeah. From your website, I'll just kind of rattle off. I know some of this has changed, right, because of recent events, but what you were providing was addiction therapy and management, medical therapy, drug and human trafficking support, which is really big in our area because we're right on I-20 and we're so close to Mexico.
Right.
We've had a couple people on talk about that. You've helped them provide for shelter, whether that be there or one of your outlets, food and clothing, which you talked a little bit about, help with rent if it was doable, and I'm sure you couldn't provide enough. And which it stings when a nonprofit has to turn folks away. Same thing with utilities. I mean, I see people post every week on Facebook about their water being turned off, or, my husband lost their job or got hurt on the job, and we're fighting to make decisions between food and utilities and or heat, or this time of year and stuff like that. Veteran support was also something that you did. And also LGBTQ support as well, which that part there, in East Texas is kind of a risky thing to unfold.
It is.
Do you think that has been one of the factors that's played a role into some recent events, or do you think that it's? I mean, I don't want to go straight from like all this, beautifulness and busyness, but I mean, facts are facts. That's where it happened. And do you think that element of support, because the only article I could find on that was out of Dallas,
yes,
which was a little surprising to me that nobody had brought that forward. Why was that element important, and what was that a motivating factor, you think, from some folks that were supportive during COVID to change their tune, or were there other things that were at play that I don't know about?
Man, I don't know if there's enough time in the day for me to tell this story. So I swore I'd never go back to church. I told you that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to step back there for just a second. I did a couple of times.
Okay.
And it ended up in. The only way that I can explain it is it's just like I'm not meant to be there. Like I'm meant to be on the street with people.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of people that say that that's where church is.
Yeah, it is. Listen, it is. I believe that that's where it is.
Yeah.
So the last time I went, I was the last time that I got plugged in at a church. I was on the worship team there, about to go up and lead worship, and was plugged into some different other areas of ministry and service there. And I was about to check in on Facebook before church started, and just invite my Facebook friends and family to come and sit with me.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, and the first thing that I see is this person who's a stranger to me at the time, now is a very good friend of mine, and he is like literally like a bird, like perched like a bird in front of a rainbow flag at our local Pride festival here. And I still was very, very much in my belief system, and very judgmental and legalistic at that point in time. And I was like, whew, like, what does this guy think he's doing?
Yeah.
And me being who I am, I texted him on Messenger and asked him what he thought he was doing, because it's, why not?
For sure.
And he sent me a link to the Trevor Project. And it was the link to the page that had youth suicide rates.
Sure.
And I closed it out real quick after I sent him the message. But I couldn't stop thinking about the picture. I don't know why. I still don't know why, because I don't know. Because it was meant to be, and it landed me here, I guess, is the only thing that I have. But those youth suicide stats rocked my world. I ended up really feeling like this is my language for it. If the LGBTQ community, I started to learn. I have to back up and say that. I started to learn, and I started to ask questions. And I started to seek out people who were part of that community to ask, and God help me, I definitely was so offensive because I didn't know better.
Sure.
But I was trying so hard to understand and to learn. And what I came back to every time was that community was hurt.
Yeah.
And I went to my church leadership and said, if the church is who we say we are, and this bridge has been broken, it's the church's job to go first. Mm-hmm. And that's not a popular concept
for sure.
in East Texas. So that was my final draw away from the church. And ultimately, when One Love started, it had to be inclusive.
Yeah.
And so I think, to go back to your question now, to say, do I think that was a contributing factor? Absolutely, I do. Mm-hmm. I think that people draw a line in the sand when it comes to that. And so, like, I can love you this far.
Yeah.
But if you are LGBTQ or you support it and affirm it, that's my cutoff point.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be a part of that, and I can't contribute to that anymore. So yes, I think that was very much a factor. I think when I say all inclusive, I mean everybody. And so we were a non-faith-based agency, and that does not mean that our people are not faith people.
Sure.
It just means that it's not an excluding factor.
Correct.
So if you come here and you say, I am a Christian, we're going to take you and we're going to love you. Mm-hmm. And if you come in and you say you're atheist or agnostic or whatever that is, we are going to take you and we're going to love you just the same. And it doesn't matter to us. And we don't feel like we need, I don't feel like I need to save anyone. I feel like, that's not my goal. My goal is to help the human in front of me. And we've been very vocal about that because I think it's important to be vocal about that. And I think that hurt us. And then I didn't have language for it until after some of the troubles that we're going to talk about started.
Yeah.
And I exhausted my resources for support here locally and started to branch out a few years ago, and knew that I had to start to develop state and national relationships if I was going to survive, period. As a nonprofit, if I was going to survive, and as human Amanda, if I was going to survive, I had to find my people. Mm-hmm. And so I had to branch outside of East Texas to do that. And I had no idea that it was a thing, and we were practicing it, but we had no idea that we were harm reductionists. And that is not a popular concept in East Texas either. So
yeah. So when you started connecting with national nonprofits that were emulated kind of what you were doing. Mm-hmm. Is that the One Love World?
No, so One Love World is just our legal name.
Mm-hmm. So is that the Power?
No, so You Are the Power.
You Are the Power, that's right.
You Are the Power came into play later. So I really just started to seek out other state and local agencies and alliances who were doing the same work as us. So I connected with Texas Harm Reduction Alliance, with the National Homelessness Law Center, National Low Income Housing, different nonprofits. I started traveling to go to conferences to make connections. And
that way, if you needed support, you could get that support outside of the area if it wasn't there.
Yes.
So, like a year and a half ago, you're trying to provide some support, and you can't house everybody you need, right? Yeah. Like you have more than what you can help.
Yes.
I mean, there's more people individuals that need help than you could provide within a four-wall, within a rooftop. Is that fair?
That's probably fair. Yeah.
And then, but you still had your parking lot available, and the grounds that were available around the building.
Yeah. So not quite.
Huh?
So that's not quite how it happened.
Okay. Well, tell me the unfiltered version.
All right. So we became a target long before the media knew we were a target, or before we started being vocal about being a target. Just a few, maybe a month or so after we moved in, I got a call from a neighbor nearby that told me that I was not wanted on that street, and that I should go ahead and pack up all of our things, pick it up, and move it on down to the other side of Mobberly. And if you're familiar with Longview at all, you know that Highway 80 is a dividing.
That was a suggestive way of saying that's where you should belong.
Yes, that I needed to go to South Longview.
Correct. Yeah.
And that person happened to have a lot of connections with powers that be in Longview, and comes from a family that has been in politics in Longview and had a lot of influence. And so we started experiencing small things at first, like the police department. We would have officers surrounding our building, parked at every corner.
Which is an uncomfortable thing for someone who's been disparaged already.
Yes.
They're not going to come to you if there's police officers all around.
No, they're not. We had...
Same way in my line of business, like, you know, they've exhausted other means. They don't want to go to a bank. No. They want to just a collateralized loan and want to face somebody who doesn't judge them.
Yes.
That's why, like, you know, sometimes we'll interview some folks and my manager will say, you know, they're different, or, you know, why they got blue hair or whatever. I'm like, they're perfect.
Yes.
They're exactly who we're looking for. Because if I walked in and I exhausted all means and I got to buy diapers, or if I got to buy formula, or if I got to put gas in the car to last me till Friday, the last thing I want to see is no tattoos, no blue hair. I mean, I don't want you to judge me.
Yes.
You know, so
I need to see someone who I can relate to.
Absolutely, 100%. So
yes, that is very much a challenge, but that was
we were
that
talking
made
about the
us,
police cars.
That very much a challenge, and that was uncomfortable for us. But yes, majorly uncomfortable for our clients. And those were things that you could see on the outside, but what you could not see is that over time we were getting fire marshals show up. We would open up for extended hours because it was snowing outside, or 32 degrees. We would have had literally the first day of the freeze in 2025, we lost a client. He died in a restroom alone. And so we would open up and fire marshals would show up because a neighbor or a city councilman would call and say they're violating an ordinance.
Right.
They're not supposed to. The sign on their door says they're open from 9 to 4, and city ordinance says they can't be open after their sign says they're closed. So my hands were tied.
Right.
So I've taken a lot of heat for allowing folks to sleep on the porch.
Yeah. Or camp out.
And listen, about they were not camping, because I'll get there. But I took a lot of heat, and that's not a story that's ever been told, is they don't know that we tried to have them sleep indoors first to keep them out of sight and to keep them inside in the warmth. But we weren't a shelter. We weren't coded to be a shelter. Our building didn't have the proper set up to be a
zoning.
Not the correct zoning. And there's certain things that you have to have for safety to be a shelter that our building didn't have.
Right.
So we were never intended to be a shelter there. We were intended to be a day center. What we did intend to do was keep people from freezing to death in the cold.
Yeah.
Or from having a heat stroke when it was 105 degrees outside.
Sure.
And so we opened up for extended hours, but we took heat for that. And we were told we were outside of the parameters of what we were allowed to do. And so I couldn't open up after 4, right? And
you couldn't adjust the hours?
We could adjust the hours, and we did adjust the hours, and sometimes they left us alone, and sometimes people showed up.
Yeah.
And sometimes the neighbor, especially the one, I will say the ringleader neighbor who would complain, would say, like, the fire marshal would show up and say, like, we don't want anybody outside freezing to death any more than you do. Just make sure that you do this and this and this, and like, we're just going to walk away right now. And I appreciated that, and I think that they appreciated that. I don't think that I think they have a heart.
Sure.
And I think that a lot of the folks who showed up at our building were just having to do their job.
Yeah.
And that they didn't want to have to do it any more than we wanted them to be there. And that's heartbreaking. But that is, yes, we did everything that we could. And then it got to a point to where those officers that were sitting at every corner were arresting our clients when they were leaving our property for petty violations related to homelessness, like walking on the wrong side of the road. Jaywalking.
Walking by a curb. I've seen some craziness.
So it's crazy. So we have all of these different arrests that are being made, and our folks are not safe to leave our parking lot at this point. I even have multiple clients who are reporting to me that there are drones flying over their camp. I've got clients who are having their PD is coming in and literally taking out knives and tearing their camps to shreds. And it's not safe for them to be anywhere. And my final straw was a cancer patient who was not eligible at the shelters that we had because her medical need was too great. She was too much of a liability, and she was arrested leaving my parking lot. And
when you say final straw, what does that mean?
I mean, like, that was the icing on the cake for me that made me say, you can stay here, just don't leave this parking lot.
Yeah.
So that is when that started.
Yeah.
And it started with just a few people who kept being targeted over and over when they would leave the property, and then more people would show up. And I think people thought, and it probably, I can see this. I can see, I know people don't think this about me. They think that I'm just have this opinion and that this is it, and they don't understand.
You're only pro Amanda, right? Or
right, yeah.
One Love Longview.
Right, but I understand,
sure.
And I do. And so the part that the public doesn't know is that I can understand that that wasn't a good look.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand that the businesses were frustrated. I can understand why the businesses were frustrated. Also know that I went to my city officials and I had a list of people, of my clients who had been arrested. 50 clients arrested within a 51-day period for petty violations related to homelessness. And I took that and I put it on the county judge's desk and said, help me. I know you don't want these people in your jail. I know this has to be affecting your budget.
Right.
You don't want these people in jail. I don't want these people in jail. Help me. And I went to my city council members and said, help me. If we're not okay to be here, tell me, where would you have us go? Mm-hmm. Help me find another spot. And I was met with no solutions and constantly brushed off and just sent to the next person. Well, let me have you talk to such and such. Let me have you such and such call you, or let me set you up this meeting with this person. And nothing was happening, and our folks were quite literally dying, being targeted. Mm-hmm. I had a client who was beat up twice by an LPD officer, or by different LPD officers in my parking lot. Those videos have gone viral now. That's part of how You Are the Power, part of what they've done to legitimize our story and help us get the truth out about what really happened at 1015 McCann, because it's so hard to understand if you don't have all of the pieces to the puzzle. And I think what the public saw, and I definitely, I'm so grateful because there's been a shift in so much of, I like You Are the Power. A good friend that I have that's there, who is the original person that I connected with, his name's Ryan, and he laughs and tells the story all the time of me saying, like, when we got connected with them, they go through an extensive interview process and vetting process. They don't take on a case unless they know it is true and factual, and there is government overreach legitimately happening. And it's funny because I had been collecting open records. I had thousands of pages of open records that I didn't know how to read. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't even know if I would ever be able to use them. But I knew what was happening to us was not okay, and I knew that I needed to keep a record. So I had a calendar, and every time something happened, I would write it down. Mm-hmm. And so and I was frantic and a disaster, and my mental health was fading. My physical health was fading because of the stress. And I had these binders. I looked crazy. I looked crazy.
Right.
But I knew something wasn't right, and I kept doing the next best thing that I knew to do, and had all of these binders and these papers. And so Ryan now tells the story of me saying, but I have receipts. I have receipts.
Yeah.
I have receipts. Like, this is happening. I'm telling you this is happening.
Right.
But like, I want you to look at this, and I want you to see when this call was called in, like what was happening. And so now we have an arrest. We have the person who was impersonating a security officer who was hired by these businesses and colluding with our city council and these business owners, has been arrested now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, these are legitimate, like, this was criminal what they did to us.
Yeah.
It was not just an unfortunate series of events.
Right.
It was criminal behavior.
Yeah. And so the original charges were dropped recently, right?
So then there was an ordinance written. So when I was originally letting people sleep on our porch to keep them from being arrested.
Yeah.
Yes. PD was coming out every night over and over and over. We kept a staff person in the parking lot with our clients on those nights. And so PD was coming out. They were being called over and over. City councilman and business owner and that security guard standing across the street, mouthing, provoking the clients, flashing their lights at them, getting in their car when it's raining, and fussing about how I was letting them sleep in the rain on the front porch, when in fact we had been told we were violating an ordinance by letting them come inside.
Right.
The officers could not do anything. They established that over and over and over with this one specific business owner. And so the new mayor, before she took office, she had been working with me. We had been in regular conversation. She had been donating to my nonprofit. We had sat down on multiple occasions and talked about how if she became the elected mayor, we were going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And instead, the day that she was sworn in, she introduced an ordinance that she wrote as an action item, and it passed. That would eventually lead to my criminal charges.
Wow. Interesting.
So
somebody got a hold of her, potentially.
I
mean,
something changed.
Allegedly. Mm-hmm. So they charge you, and obviously it's kind of a little bit of a charade show for a while. You have a lawyer as part of your nonprofit that steps forward, teams up with you.
So I had an attorney in the area who saw it. It was, had been a One Love supporter.
Yeah.
Who it does not even do criminal law anymore.
Right.
Mary Lou TV
Yeah.
Saw it and said this is not okay.
Yeah.
And said that she agreed to represent me pro bono.
Yeah.
And so she did through the first part of that. And then David Moore, who is also another one of the best criminal attorneys in East Texas. I met him at my first pretrial hearing. Mary Lou introduced me to him, and he learned about our story, and he stepped in first chair.
Nice.
Also represented me.
Well, that had to feel good.
It did. It felt amazing because, again, like You Are the Power had done so much to help us organize my receipts and present that in a way that the community could understand.
Sure.
we'd been fussing. I had been fussing, and I wasn't going to not be vocal about what was happening to us. It was all I knew to do. No one would listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought, this has to be documented. I'm going to go to social media, and I'm going to keep documenting. And something has to happen at some point. And so it did. It felt like I said it on the phone. I was weeping with Ryan on the phone, and I said, I'm not crazy, right? Like, I'm not crazy. This is really happening to me.
Yeah.
And that with Mary Lou stepping in, it legitimized our story. It made it real. It made me realize that we did, in fact, my organization was a victim of government overreach.
Gotcha.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. So throughout the 17-month situation, you're going to pre-trial, you're going to trial. Meanwhile, you have this place in McCann. Are you still being attacked, or are you guys making transitions away from the?
At that point, so I got my citation was issued in June or July of 24. The ordinance passed at the end of May, and within just a few months, I was cited. And then I ended up getting a second charge for violating an outdoor event ordinance, which is...
Yeah, where they say that you have to apply for some type of permit.
So it was a private event, right. And per ordinance, which I have a printed out copy of the ordinances, right. Binder of all 600, 700 pages, and took it to the city manager and said, help me understand this. This says I don't need to have a permit, right, for a private event on my property. And he insisted that I did. And so I went and applied for the permit the day before the event, as he told me to do. And the person in the office guaranteed that I would have a permit by the time my event took place the following day. The city came out and inspected that morning of the event. And then I received a notice in the mail from the Director of Development Services later on, a notice that I was going to be receiving a citation for that, which I'm never so interesting that you get a notice that you're going to be cited.
Right.
But the city came out and inspected and gave us the go-ahead. And then I later learned that
it was pulled back. That
we did not get the permit, and so then I was cited for the permit. Again, both of those charges now dismissed. But during that time, we were losing our community support.
Right.
So we've been very vocal about being 100% community funded. I'm a person who has very strong feelings about grants and taxpayer dollars, and I'm a person who believes that we should be personally responsible to care for our neighbors. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I run my nonprofit.
Yeah.
I believe that it should be a community effort, that we ought to take care of our neighbors, and we ought not to push that responsibility off on someone else. That's our job. They are our neighbors. And so with that being said, that made it very difficult when we started. All of this scrutiny started coming. Yeah. We're taking all of this heat. And then later learned that our donors were actually being targeted. Mm-hmm. One of the business owners had taken it upon himself to see who we were thanking on social media and was calling them directly to tell them why they should not support us. And so we lost some donors that way. We lost some donors because they disagreed with the decision to allow people to sleep on the front porch.
Yeah.
And it became a risk to support us. Other people who did support us, their businesses were then targeted.
Yeah, I can imagine the viral videos probably shook them up some too, because a lot of business owners, they don't want to be affiliated with civil unrest.
Right.
And I could see that point of view. Mm-hmm. At the same token, it's needed.
Right.
The support was needed. So talk to us a little bit about what does One Love Longview look like now?
Very different. So, the building on McCann, we ended up moving out of in March this year, and we went mobile. Another dynamic and part of this story is, I don't know if you followed this part of it, but after we moved there, a local church had a space for us. They let us move in, and within a few days of moving into that church, on that church property, the city called me and then notified me by email that we would have to move because we were out of zoning there, and that if I did not, I was going to be fined up to $2,000 a day. And we moved.
Yeah.
A few months, the church gave us a lot of grace for that, and we felt like it wasn't the church's responsibility to fight that battle for us, and left in peace. And now that is the charges have been dropped, and that church is still very supportive. I feel like I, at this point, need to be honest about what that looked like. There's still another nonprofit that was doing the very same thing that we were doing, just using it as office space. No clients. That was a part of our agreement with that church. No clients were to be seen. It was just going to be a distribution center where we were going to receive mail, perform office space, and receive donations to be able to take out into the community. And we were made to leave because it was a zoning issue, but the other nonprofit is still there and has been for years, literally doing the same thing, officing. And what was your question to me?
No, I was checking to see what what is the status of One Love Longview. Like you said that it's mostly remote now. Where are you operating out of your house now?
So yes, I do a lot of work from home, and we have some local churches who have come forward, and they host us, or we go and we help them do missions from their church, depending on what that looks like and what the needs of that church are.
Sure.
So some churches just say, hey, listen, we want you to do this, but we want you to come here. We'll host you for this specific thing.
Yeah.
And then other churches, they want to have their own mission outreach.
Sure.
And we have expertise in knowing how to communicate with this population, how to build trust.
All
we
that stuff.
have the knowledge of the resources, and so we go in and help that church build a missions team for outreach for homelessness. And so One Love operates in a lot of different capacities now. We do our own outreach, and that's what we're doing a few days a week. That continues to add. We now have 2 churches who have stepped up to open up their facilities to host us overnight for the freezing temps. And so we've now been officially done overnights at 2 churches, which is a huge deal because there were 3 churches who were willing to host us when we moved in.
Yeah.
And all 3 churches
backed away.
Yeah,
sure.
So to have them step forward now and say, like, that's so brave. It's such a huge thing for them to step forward and say, you know what, this is the right thing to do.
What's funny, it's funny now looking at it, it's not funny for you, is that looking at it through like maybe a faith leader, involving themselves with you, you're seen as like having baggage, but what's the baggage? There's no baggage. Like you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to provide this help and therapies and stuff like that, and then things change, and then there's a connotation that's associated, and it's not even deserved.
No.
Like it's very odd to me. It happens though a lot with with government overreach or political or whatever overreach, it happens more than we know. And then who's left to pick up the pieces?
Right.
The folks that were trying to do what's right and what's trying to help people, and it's just it's tough.
It is tough. It's really, really tough. I still feel very hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I still have some frustration. I try to tell myself every day now, to get up, and it's not just as simple as just let it go, because my charges were dropped, and I think the community thinks that's you look at that and you think, oh my gosh, that's this huge thing, and finally that's lifted, but that doesn't change anything.
Right.
My clients, all of them, still have warrants. They're still sitting in jail. They still have fines for the very same ordinance that I could afford to pay a fine for, and they cannot.
Yeah.
They still have that. There's still this ordinance that if they never intended to, and I don't know, listen, I don't know what they intended with the ordinance. What it looks like to me, in my opinion, is now almost 17 months in, they drop it and don't take me to trial. Did they ever plan on following through, or was it just being used as a weapon? And so if that's the case, then that ordinance needs to be reversed.
Yeah.
It's not useful. And the law should not be weaponized. And then beyond that, no one is being held accountable. So yes, my charges were dropped, but again, we know we've got somebody that has gone to jail at this point for their involvement, who was colluding with a business owner and a councilman.
Right.
No one is being held accountable, and none of these things could have happened. We were targeted from multiple departments in the city. Mm-hmm. If there is a department, you can bet that they visited our facility. That had to have been orchestrated by someone.
Don't you feel like you have some basis of going forward in front of some of these people that were factors into it, and kind of saying it's out?
Yeah.
We know, and we're telling the story, and you were involved.
Right.
And so do you have that you have that?
Yeah.
At this point, with them dropping the charges, it's clearly said that they don't want to move forward with the optics of it all. Any plans on a new building?
I'd love to have a new building. You know what? I'm telling myself right now, don't say that, because you always seem to get yourself into trouble saying something. And I'm just but I'm going to say it anyway. If I had $1 million today, I'd buy the building at 1015 McCann.
You'd buy the same building?
I'd buy the same building.
Yeah.
It was made for us.
Yeah.
You know what? I would do some things differently. I would.
Yeah.
I would hope that if ever there was a situation again, that maybe the entire community could have learned from this. Not just me, not just the business owners around us, not just the city government and the police department. Not everyone could learn from what happened. And when we see a situation that needs help, that we step in to help and not hinder.
Yeah.
That we step in to help and not try to do more harm. And so I don't want to be at odds with anyone. I understand the perspective of the business owners. I want to have a good relationship. And truly, I would do things a lot differently at that building, but it's a great location. It's central, and it's perfect. So, there's that, but ultimately, we have a severe lack of housing. We're in a housing crisis.
Oh, 100%.
And ultimately, everything, every day, and this becomes harder the more I do this work, every day I feel like I'm just band-aiding things. Mm-hmm. So every time I provide a meal, Like that doesn't make me feel good to provide a meal, because to me it's a Band-Aid. And I understand this is a language that we also use in harm reduction. You got to keep people alive long enough to treat them. And I think the same thing when it comes to homelessness. Like we have to keep people surviving long enough to house them. And so a Band-Aid is very necessary, but I'm not satisfied with a Band-Aid anymore. I very much want to see long-term effective solutions, and I want to see people housed. And so more than focusing on any facility that One Love could open, and while I would love that, I am and my team is so focused right now on still getting these folks housed one at a time.
Yeah.
And it's not any different than it looked on McCann. We're still doing the same case management, still working hard to get these folks housed, but it takes years. It literally takes years. So that's our focus. How can we equip the community to help us serve them? If we have a church, I think that so long the churches took a browbeating here, because when things were falling apart on McCann, we also saw some negative outpour from a part of this community. They were like, where are the churches at? And now the churches are here and they're stepping forward and they're saying, like, what can we do to help? And so we'd be a hypocrite. We wouldn't be who we say we are if we don't step in and help them help this community.
Yeah.
So that's our new focus. So yes, building on the wish list, housing is the ultimate goal.
Feel like you feel like some headwind or some wind behind you now? Like, are you feeling more motivated, or you feel like
in some ways I feel very
you said you feel hurt, but
yeah, I do.
Still, I mean,
the comments were 90% at least negative.
Okay.
The things that I read about myself on social media were so hurtful. And when I say my mental health was declining and my physical...
There's a lot of people that say don't read any comments.
Yeah, don't read any comments. And listen, I think you should probably recommend that, but that's probably not realistic.
Yeah.
I did read the comments, and that's
want
done.
to.
Right, yeah. And but listen, the things that I read about myself and the negative things that I read about our nonprofit were so hurtful. I'm in therapy for it. And now the turnaround, even more than the negative comments before, are comments in support and understanding. And
I didn't see many negative comments whenever it was posted that they dropped the charges.
No. It was overwhelmingly, it was
positive.
Me that was pissed off about that. Like, I wanted the opportunity to have it documented, what happened to us in court.
Yeah, for sure.
So the community, I was like, don't celebrate right now. Like, this is not a celebration.
Yeah.
But the community is, beyond the charges being dropped, the community is overwhelmingly being supportive. And I'll tell you what is even more so. People that never supported us before, and it doesn't even have anything to do with One Love, us taking a stand and being vocal made other people in our community who had never had a voice start to use their voice.
Yeah.
And I can count that as a success, because I'm watching citizens in Longview, Texas start to vocalize. Yeah,
it was an unintended benefit of your heartburn and heartache.
Man, boy was it. And that, to me, I count that as a success. And would I choose to go through all of those things again to have that same outcome? It's absolutely hell no.
Yeah.
But am I so grateful on this side of things that now our community is being vocal. Conversations that were being brushed under the rug, that were being silenced, are happening out loud now.
Good.
And I'm even watching the difference on our city council. Our city council members are asking questions. It's not just a unanimous vote across the board. We are watching pushback, and we are watching them going through line by line and being diligent. And that, again, that is a huge, huge win. And I think Longview will be better for it.
Agreed. I did not brief you on this.
Okay.
But at the end of all of our podcasts, We like to acknowledge anyone that you want to give a shout out to. Kind of leaves us in a positive frame of mind, and just maybe somebody who's a mentor to you. We've already talked about your legal team.
Yeah.
Obviously, those are folks that were pretty impactful. But if you have anybody that you want to, speak to, whether it be the camera or just vocally, it could be somebody that we do tough. I have a tough job of letting people know what they mean to me and how impactful they have been or were or whatever it may be. So, stage is yours.
Wow. So, first and foremost, my immediate family. There's 8 people in my home. I've got 4 kids. My husband, 4 kids. My bonus daughter, and we have a new little foster baby.
Awesome! Congrats.
Yes, and who wasn't with us during the time, but he makes everything more fun now, and I have to acknowledge him.
Right.
My family was so strong during this entire process, and silent, and people don't recognize or understand what they were enduring, that we were getting threats, that we were getting letters to our home, to my home address, that we had people driving by our home, that I had people following me, that I was stalked by a previous city council member, and that my husband I have a remote start on my vehicle, and that he has cranked my car before we ever walk outside every day for over 2 years now to make sure it's not going to blow up because of the threats that we've received for trying to help people. And so, I have to acknowledge that, obviously, they're the real heroes. Obviously, yes, my attorneys, David Moore, Mary Lou Baugh, Leisha Kidd Brooks was the environmental health manager in Longview, and she lost her job because she issued me a health permit. And that's not how that will be spun. That's what happened.
Right.
The 2 city council members who voted no to the ordinance, District 2, Shannon Moore, District 3, Ray Wade, were the only 2 people who voted against that ordinance, and I have to acknowledge that. Denise Howell, who is my greatest friend and has been with me every step of the way, and Steve Crane, who has probably been more of a dad to me, and both of them just incredible, wise humans who are always there for me to bounce ideas off of, and who help me plan, and they just are who they are. My entire staff, all of our volunteers, I can't not call my staff by name to say Mecca, McKenna, Allison, Miss Gertie, Grandma, Tom, God, if I'm leaving someone out, Michelle, Ron, they will let me know. And God, if I left, I'm just look at the camera. I don't know which one the camera is looking at me, but God, if I left you out, no, I didn't mean to. I just can't think right now, and you know me well enough to know that. And all of our volunteers,
donors,
the donors that have supported us, the single moms who have faithfully given $10 a month and kept us afloat, the people who never left, and the people who just got on board. You are the power. Of Spike Cohen, who has an enormous platform, was the vice presidential candidate nominee for the Libertarian Party, who is the founder of You Are the Power, and the team at You Are the Power made everything real for us. Man, the other nonprofits, the national coalitions, Texas Harm Reduction Alliance, huge. They got 10 state organizations to sign a support letter for the city requesting that they drop my charges months ago.
Yeah.
So for that, to reel in that support coming from all over the nation, and I know that I'm leaving out like a huge
swath of folks.
That
That's
I'm
okay.
literally gonna cry later.
Nah.
Because I forgot to mention.
They'll all understand that you and I it's all my fault because
it is. It's your fault. I
didn't tell you, but I mean, we'd probably be here for 30 minutes.
Oh man.
Alone, probably
I know.
having you thank people. So
yes, there's so many folks that just. I even have to say for a second that this is hard work, and that everybody doesn't last. It's too hard.
Yeah.
You'll die. You got to get out when you get out.
Yep.
And I acknowledge that, and it's not for everyone. So even for the folks that were there at the beginning, that had to step away, whatever that looked like, whether they got mad and left or whether they got sick and left, whether they just wanted to leave or it wasn't for them, or they wanted to be here and couldn't. Like every single person that's been involved in One Love along the way has made such an impact, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So, and the clients I'm just going to keep going. I'll
yeah,
stop.
I know.
So,
well, you're very passionate about it.
I am very,
and
I think I was
I've
born to do
enjoyed our
this.
time.
Thank you.
For sure. My shout out's a very simple one. We lost one of my very, very good family members yesterday. He was a wonderful man, very supportive of his family, taught me more than I have learned from anyone else. I'm going to miss him, that's for sure. But I've appreciated our time.
Thank you
so much. It's been so much
fun.
fun. Thank you for filling us in on the real deal, the story.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing what you guys do with One Love Longview in the future. I think you guys you're going to get some wind at your sails, and you guys are going to move forward.
It's the right thing to do.
Yep, for sure. All right. This is our episode of 903. See you next time.